boy, y'all better be ready for this one, because this is gonna be freaking fantastic. Hey there, y'all. Yamasaki here. Welcome back to Yamasaki RC. And today marks a special day because this video is all about my dream machine. I've wanted one of these things for years, and today we're going to be taking a look at it. And here it is, y'all. Here is my dream machine. This is an early 19th century Lawson Model W 1.5 horsepower hit and miss engine. I've been looking for a hit and miss engine practically my entire life. I just think these things are one of the most badass pieces of machinery ever built by man's hand. They're just so heavy duty, they run so smooth, and they're pretty quiet. Now, to give you some backstory on this, you guys have probably seen this little dealio right here in the last video, the old iron haul. And this was one of the items that I immediately found and immediately said, yep, that's going home with me today. Well, it didn't come home with me that day. I had to dig it out. When I found this thing, this entire framework that it's sitting on here was completely covered all the way up to right about here. The only things that I could see was about the last quarter half of this flywheel and the front end right here. That was the only way I could tell that this was a hit and miss engine, because it was buried under about 2.5 feet of mulchy soil and pine needles, because it had been sitting out on the side of an old garage underneath a pine tree back behind waves and waves of old car parts and junk and you name it. Pretty much what I'm trying to say here is this thing came off of an old hoarder's home. I'm not kidding. And aside from it being buried and me not realizing, because I did see this framework here, but I didn't see any of this. I had to move 4 transmissions out of the way and an engine block just by my own bare hands. That's how dedicated I was to get this thing out of there. Now, when I first stumbled upon this thing, I immediately knew this thing was going to be locked up tighter than a frog butt in a watermelon seat fight. And it is. You can see the piston there is really socked in there tight. All this other stuff is locked up, but she looks to be complete. Got your Wico or Wico magneto right there. Spark plug. Muffler's still on there. Even the oiler. Even the oiler's still on there. There's your little drip mechanism, I think. Now, I'm nowhere near. I'm not even an expert. I don't even know the first thing about hit and miss engines, other than it's a hit and miss engine. And one way you can tell that it's a hit and miss engine is they usually have this big tub on the top of the cylinder, and that's to hold water to keep the thing cool. That was your radiator back in the early 1900s. Another good indication is big flywheels. I don't know how much these things weigh, but I'm going to have to take a guess and say around 60 or 70 pounds. This whole thing is solid cast iron. Aside from a few brass pieces here and there, you're looking at a real piece of American iron right here, y'all. Now, taking a closer look at this thing, I don't think there's ever been any modifications on it, aside from this carriage here that it's on. Now, this is a Model W, and from what little research I've found, there was also one out there that was not a Lawson engine. It was a De La Valle. And I don't know if that's the manufacturer or what. It's just very interesting. But I think this undercarriage might have been home built. It could be factory. I don't know. It looks like it was a solid built piece. It looks like it's an old plow type of frame with a little wheel there, and then they attached it with just whatever means they could and put some stabilizer feet on it so you can hold it up. Now, when me and my brother-in-law manhandled this thing into the truck, and in order to do that, I had to break the other ones off. And I'll go show you those in a minute. But the carriage, I'm gonna just keep this thing the way it is. The carriage is gonna stay the same. I'm gonna restore the engine. We're gonna do all the fancy work to this thing to make it run right. I'm sure I'm not the first person to find a locked up hit and miss engine that's been sitting around for, who knows, 60, 70 years. I don't know the year of this thing. No idea. So if anybody, like I say in all my other videos, knows anything, you know where to go. But there's all the gears. You've got some oiler cups here. I don't know if they're grease cups or oiler cups, but I know a lot of these hit and miss engines have them. And look, there's still grease in that one. Still grease in that one there too, but that one's loose on the fitting. I've seen oiler cups here on the main journals of the crankshaft, but this one seems to have more grease nipples than anything. There's two here. There's one up here. I thought there was one somewhere else, but maybe I'm just going a little cuckoo. You've got your power takeoff unit on this side of the flywheel. You've got a pulley built in to the flywheel there, and then you've got an old school flat belt pulley right here, which I think is just flippin' amazing. The oiler is cracked right there, but it seems to be holding, I guess, so maybe it's still usable. Not entirely sure. The magneto is probably going to have to be gone through. I pressure washed it, this entire thing in here, inside the, let's just call it the crankshaft bathtub, was just filled with pine needles and mulch and stuff. Same within here. So I went ahead and I blew it off with some air and some good old pressure washing, and she cleaned up pretty good. I'm gonna have to redo most of the wood. The wood's all cracking and everything, but it's still stable enough that you can move this thing around. And actually, it's not that hard to move around. It's if you get a little lopsided on one side, then this whole thing's gonna tip over and you're gonna have a bad day. Because that's what happened to me when I first tried to get it home. You definitely have to have some arm strength when you're moving this thing around. Just to show you guys, here's the other feet. Solid steel. It's got these cool little washers on the top here. I'm not sure what they're from or what, but yeah, I got the other two feet right here, so that's good. I'm certain that this thing was red at one point, judging by red. Not sure what I'm going to paint it. That's way far down the road. We got to get everything free first. There's the tag right there. Lawson, the John Lawson, what's that say? Manufacturing Company. You've got a Champion 3-com spark plug. I don't know what the heck that is. That's so ancient, I don't know if you can find one. Maybe you can find one that's cross-compatible. Your carburetor, for those of you who don't know on a hit and miss engine, is this little doohickey right here. I think this is your air adjustment, and then here is your fuel adjustment, and that's it. That is it. That is your carburetor right there. Nothing else. No air filter, nothing. And then you have your line going down, your fuel tank. The fuel tank is right underneath, all the way back here. Galvanized, even still has the cap. It's quite a bit rusty in there. Not entirely sure if there's a hole in it or not. We're going to have to find out once we take this thing apart. Now, I may just do exactly what I did to the Oakland's engine. Some of you out there will know exactly what I'm talking about. Hopefully we can make that engine as nice as I got this one, for the most part, you know. That's the only way I can really think of to get all of this unstuck. Aside from heat Heat, as I've mentioned in previous videos, is your best friend with rusty iron. It truly is. Really, the only things that are still free are the valve on the carb. It looks like that may be your oiler on and off. Maybe that's on, maybe that's off, and then it also turns, and I think that's how you adjust the amount of oil that drips down into the cylinder, because you can see there is a pipe that goes all the way down into the cylinder there, and that's how your cylinder and piston gets lubrication. So yep, that is pretty much all I can really cover on this engine. Not much else to go on about, aside from this is how you would start it. Got your little handle that tucks in all nice and cute in the flywheel there. Then when you're ready to turn it, you pop it out and you start cranking her, and pretty soon she'll pop over, and boom, you got power. And these were a really, really state-of-the-art engine back in the day. Allowed farmers to have the power they needed to run whatever they needed to power wherever they needed it. So it's pretty fascinating. Pretty fascinating. And these old hit and misses are getting harder and harder to find, because a lot of them are in this shape or even worse, or they're already restored and in a collection that you'll probably never get your hands on. These things are just amazing old machines, and I'm very happy to have one. So, well guys, that's going to do it for this video. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment for more content. And Yamasaki out. We'll see y'all later.